This is Karen with NewClevelandRadio.net, and it is time for Talking Life with Alicia. And Alicia, I'm really excited about tonight because I learned more and more about you on your podcast. But you have some friends who may be popping in, and we already have one. So tell me why you wanted to do this type of podcast tonight.
Well, we've been talking so much about togetherness, and it dawned on me because I went to boarding school for a couple of years, and we have the sisterhood, and people on Facebook are like, who's this person and who's that person, and my big sister Auntie Cam, that the kids know. They've never met her. And that's my big sister from boarding school. And so I got this crazy idea at 3 a.m, because we all know I don't sleep, but I was like, why don't we get my sisterhood on my podcast?
I love it. I love it. So you have one of your sisterhoods.
I do.
On camera right now. So introduce us to her.
Well, this is my very dear friend, Gretchen. And we met in 1992, so my sophomore year of high school.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. And we've been friends ever since.
Yes. Yeah.
Before the internet.
Yes.
So that's when you used to write letters and put postage on them?
I don't think we ever wrote letters, but we definitely racked up phone bills.
Got it. So for those listening and who may be a lot younger than us, when you say racking up phone bills, there once was a time that if you called somebody who was out of your area, and typically, especially out of your state, that was called a long distance phone call with charges, right?
Yes.
So that's what you got. And I'm sure your mom and dad were really happy to see those phone bills.
Oh, especially from payphones when you had a calling card and you could call and you had to put in the digits because we didn't have cell phones and we didn't have phones in our room.
Interesting.
So
the two of you met in the early 90s. What has changed in your relationship since then, or does it really stay the same?
You answer that one first.
I think it's changed as we're more adults and, especially your field. And I don't know. I don't know how to explain that,
We don't live together.
It's like an unspoken bond of the sisterhood of being at Grier. We experienced it. We know what we're thinking and how we feel about stuff in general, but it's I don't know how to explain.
It is. It's weird. No, it is. It is this thing out there that is I know, for instance, I didn't see Gretchen for a couple decades, and our friend passed away, and it was literally I'll never forget it because it was okay, Kate died, and there was this, okay, I'm going to the funeral in Tennessee. I hadn't seen Gretchen and it had been 2 decades at that point in time?
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
And we saw each other and it was no time had passed.
Exactly.
And it's when you live together and we lived on a hill in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by trains, a highway, and that's it. And the Allegheny Mountains.
So, you did surprise me a couple weeks ago in your podcast when you said something about going to boarding school, because that was one thing I did not know about you. So,
Surprise.
surprise. So was it your choice to go, or did your mom and dad? Ah,
There, no. So, we talk about, well, I talk about a lot about people acting out their feelings as opposed to expressing them in an appropriate manner.
got it.
And as a teenager, I learned very well how to act out my feelings
Got it.
and not express them appropriately. And I won myself a ticket to to find a different place to go to school. And the schools in Michigan, there are some great private schools, but yeah, I was a little ornery, we'll put it that way, a little edgy. And if I could figure out how to fail an interview, I did.
Got it.
I barely, I faked an IQ test. That was pretty fun. I learned that.
Your poor
Yeah,
mom and dad.
yeah, poor Alan and Blanche. We do feel bad for them. I mean, people go to boarding school for many different reasons. It's truly, though, probably the best educational experience and personal growth I've ever had, though. And so no, I got an invitation there. Actually, there was an all-girls school in Ohio that when they had looking at all the fun things you can do, and there was the Laura Ashley fashion show, and I was like, no, that's not going to happen. You can't send me there. Laura, no, I honest to God, you put me there, I'm literally going to run away from there. So I think my parents found a school, well, actually the headhunter found the school, where if I ran away, it would be the middle of nowhere.
So Gretchen, what got you to the boarding school? What made you to go there?
My parents convinced me that I needed a better education, and I wasn't going to get it here locally. But looking back, there was behaviors that I was having, and I would have been in a lot of trouble in high school, and that they felt, isolate me somewhere in the middle of a mountain, was the better option. The other thing I realized afterwards that my parents got divorced. I was the last sibling in the house, and they needed me out of the house, and so they sent me away. So it was a partial, hey, we think you will get a better education, but in turn, so a few years later I realized, what, they needed me out of the house, and it wasn't for me.
But it probably turned out for the best for you, because maybe living in the house during all that stress and tension, that wouldn't have been very good for you.
Probably, yeah. It was rough because I had two parents that, were going in different directions, and hey, I try to call them on the phone and they're like, you're interrupting my life. What's going on? And it was bad, it was rough at that time. So, but, in the end, as far as the educational purpose, I loved it. I loved the small classes. I loved that one-on-one connection you had with the teachers. Even if it was in the evening time or the weekend, it wasn't just, 9 to 5.
Right, exactly.
I always said that I wished I could go there to school and live at home, but that wasn't
But by going to this boarding school, it sounds like at least a group of you found this camaraderie. You became a family.
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
I think so. Yeah. Yes.
And if you read stories, especially fiction stories about boarding schools, they either sound fantastic, like you're sort of making yours sound like right now, other than it being out in the middle of nowhere, your trains and maybe cows or something, or they make it sound so terrible. But it sounds like you both needed that structure. Yes?
Yeah.
I don't know if it was necessarily a structure. It was.
No, yeah.
I mean, it's so there are
I think we learned to get around those structured very easily.
There may or may not be some maps that how to escape. I don't know. There might actually, and if you've gone back, Gretchen, because I was there.
No, I have not.
So 9 years ago, I went to for career day. So I went up there and I talked about like my career, and the school is completely like, I would love to go back there now, like the dance studio and the art studio.
Wow.
And it truly is a state-of-the-art school. And we spent a lot of time trying to get out of that school. I mean, it was the good and the bad.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we were at school at a unique period of time, and the dynamics of our classes, because like class of 93 to class of 96, we're all really, really close. And even reading like on Facebook and some of the groups, some of them are close, but the dynamic is just different, I guess, would be. Yay! So now she's muted.
Her mic on there. There's her mic. Okay.
Is this our Mary Kay photo?
Actually, just give me a minute. I just have to deal with my kids. I'll be right back.
Okay.
So, a normal household. We understand that.
But it's so funny too, though, because that's kind of like Grier. We'd all be in our room. Oh my God. Pop in, pop out.
Mm-hmm.
But I think also too the diversity, because we're in the middle of nowhere in Pennsylvania, and I have friends from Hong Kong, Saudi Arabia, like Cameron and I were talking the other day, and unfortunately she's working right now, otherwise she would have joined us. But Max was talking about how he gets to visit all these places virtually for diversity. And so we're talking about that, and I was like, oh no, buddy, like I lived with people who like are from Pakistan, who are from like, who were born and raised in Hong Kong, and he's looking at me like, huh? Like, I'm like, yeah, all these people in this little place, and Bailey gets to be threatened to sent there all the time.
So you mentioned that people came there internationally. So
oh yeah.
What was the school known for? I mean, I know that your parents sent you there, Alicia, because, you're just a troublemaker. But was there something else that attracted families to send their children there?
Yeah, I mean, they were known for equestrians. Mm-hmm. Definitely not soccer. They let me on the team, so no, there's definitely not. It was not a sports school. It was academically, truthfully, we're world renowned for education.
Okay.
But I think it was. I really, honest to God, I really don't. You'd have to ask Huwalda, because Huwalda didn't get sent there because she was bad. And her life wasn't falling apart either. But I mean, looking at the schools and looking at where people came from, if we have like women who came from countries that I don't think could have gotten an education, or their families worked on not compounds, but within a structure to get a good education, this is where they went.
So because the two of you have gone to a boarding school, would you have, now Gretchen, you said your kids are high school?
My daughter is an 8th grader and my son's a sophomore.
Okay. So would you consider sending them to a boarding school? Or have you ever considered it?
I thought about it. One, the financial aspect I couldn't do. I would say no.
Okay.
I like them being at home and the interaction, you know.
And what about you, Alicia?
No way.
No way. So do either one of you resent your parents for sending you there?
Ooh.
At one point I did, but I have to believe that it was a reason to go, and it was their generation of that, you know, of kids being separate from their
Right.
parents, and you know, my parents were older, so they were in their 70s. So now, I mean, if they would be, they passed away, but they would be in their middle 70s now. So I think that was a generation of, hey, you know, the kids were over here and the parents were over here. Not as hands-on as I think my husband and I are.
Well, and the reason I ask that question is my youngest son is 30, and there are days he'll say to me, you know, you should have sent me away to school, or you should have done this with my education. And it's always like, you know, there's a lot of should haves, but, you know, you made it through and you're doing just fine. So as parents, we make those decisions based on what's happening around us. So, so introduce us, Alicia, to your second friend that you have.
Second. I only have 2 friends. No,
No,
I have like 4. Well, this is my actual suite mate for 2 years in a row. this is Huwalda. And we actually, like, you want to talk about living in a pod, we shared a bathroom for 2 years.
And Alicia was probably one of the first girls that I met when I got to Grier. I think the first or second night. And I said to her, no, so she said to me, so what did you do? Why did you end up here? And I looked at her and I was like, what did I do? I said, I finished grade 9 and there was nowhere else to go for school. So I ended up here. What do you mean? And I think, Alicia, you said something along the lines of you stole a car? You had done some kind of activity like that?
Yeah, maybe. I have stolen a car before. And probably, I don't think that. I ran away. I know that's what got me there. But
it was something along that line, and I was like,
that weekend.
And I was in shock. And I remember my dad, because he was the one who dropped me off at Grier, and the very next day he came for a visit, and I said, where did you bring me? He's like, what happened? I said, you don't want to know. So that was my first meeting of Alicia, but I remember her fondly. I mean, we had good memories since then, but yeah.
So,
God, I stole a car.
Yeah, I those are times I didn't even know how to drive a car. I didn't even know anything about women driving cars. So,
where are you from originally?
Stealing them.
Originally, I was born and raised in Saudi. So when I went to Grier, I had just come from Saudi Arabia. So my parents were continents away, and I was in the U.S. What was my first time living there? I had went on a vacation and I had seen the U.S. So I'm from Saudi, but I'm originally from Pakistan. That's my background. And now I live in Canada. All over the place. Yeah. Hi,
Very
Gretchen.
international. So it's interesting looking at the three of you. That now you're living sort of close to each other. You know, we have Michigan, Ohio, Canada. They're sort of near each other. But originally, you know, your backgrounds were so different. So what was it like rooming with somebody like Alicia, who had this troubled past, and you were a young girl who was there for your education?
You know what? It's so funny because Grier was smart about it. They let us room with people from our own background. So I was rooming with another girl from Saudi. Alicia was my suite mate. So we had the bathroom in common, right? So, but regardless, I mean, our door opened, her door opened, and we were literally in each other's face all the time. But it was quite I mean, I had a very positive experience at Grier, and it was just, it was awesome meeting women from everywhere around the world. So it was just amazing.
She would not smoke in the bathroom with me, though.
I didn't smoke then, right? No, I didn't even smoke.
Oh, I smoked in the bathroom, and you would get mad at me.
Oh,
That's how I started smoking in my room.
Because I was a rule follower, right? Because
Yes!
in Saudi, we had to follow the laws of Saudi. And so it was like a girl smoking, that was one thing, right? But in the bathroom where we're not allowed, oh my God. I gotta say, by senior year, I was guilty of it, Alicia. Maybe you didn't know that about me. I was guilty of it. So that's where you changed me.
It's all my fault, yes.
And I got caught too with the house mother. And she said to me, I said, please don't tell my parents, please don't tell my parents. And she said, okay, I'll be quiet, just don't do it again.
You didn't do the fan trick?
No, I did do the fan trick. I was in somebody's room doing the fan trick and she saw our cigarette butts going out the window.
Oh!
I was like, you know that, where you stand, and we weren't that smart, where you stand and you can see all the windows down the road. So she was standing there and saw those lights coming out of the window flickering. Oh, God.
Well, it would have been difficult for you to get in trouble because to send you all the way back home, that would have been a long trip. So.
And it was Huwalda.
Well, yeah, I mean, well, it wasn't unheard of. I mean, I had heard of kids in Saudi that had gone to boarding schools that were sent home. I mean, that's not unheard of. When you are really going to go crazy, the school has certain limits, right? I don't think I was ever that wild, so.
No, I don't think so.
I mean, the yearbook actually said that'll be the day Huwalda wears a mini skirt. A black leather mini actually is what they put. That's what they put. So, I mean, yeah, it wasn't there yet.
So what have you all completed in your education? I mean, we know that, Miss Smarty Pants on here, Dr. Alicia, has owned a bar and listened to everybody's troubles and then finally decided to become a therapist. And she's a pretty good one because she's helped me quite a bit. But first of all, Alicia, did you think when you were going to boarding school that you were really going to do something this profound with your life?
No. Sex, drugs, rock and roll, man. No, I don't know like this.
No, I remember when I first heard that about you, Alicia, I was so proud of you. I was like, oh my God, that's so awesome. Right? When you are together and you see people succeed, like that was just incredible. Such an accomplishment.
No, I was there. I think the first 3 months, I know everybody heard like, I want to go back home and this is crap. I couldn't get weed. Alcohol was not a problem because you didn't even need like a fake ID, I think, at that point in time. So I brought a little party up to Grier. Couple times at least.
I did not know that. Okay. Just learned something today.
There was like 3 bottles of wine sitting in my mini fridge. Are you kidding? I had to angle for a mini fridge for like, I don't know, a good couple weeks. And then I don't know, I think I finally got one. That was junior year. Sophomore year, I just had whiskey in the back of the closet.
Oh my God.
Like, oh no, junior year, it was like 3 bottles of wine always were in the mini fridge and they sat behind the Diet Coke. Oh yeah. And I found out where I could get pot junior year. So.
But you were out in the middle of nowhere.
I know. It's great to meet people. There's this little town called Altoona that is legit a little town. And if you go to the mall, it's like the mall anywhere. I found people. I got people.
I think it's easier to get stuff like that in smaller towns than bigger towns. I mean, when I moved to Canada, I was living in the city of Timmins, which I'm sure is bigger than Altoona, 47,000 people. But I've seen people get stuff there than easily than in Toronto, living in Toronto. So I think smaller towns, there are better connections and, better way to get around things. And Tyrone, oh my God, what a town of 1,000 people. God, that's where we were, right? So.
Right. No, we were actually in the borough of Birmingham.
Oh, there we go. Even smaller.
Like 400.
Like 10 houses down the hill. We remember. No, it's awesome though. Great times. And I what I miss the most though, and I'm diverting from Alicia, but what I do miss the most, it's honestly the geography of where we were. Like it was beautiful. Like the trees, the hills. The geography was gorgeous.
So obviously that was different from what you were used to back home.
Oh yeah, desert.
And
when I first got there, I remember this story. Somebody said to me, how do you get to school every day? And I said to them, well, you know what? We actually have a camel. So my dad has to put me on a camel. He has to walk me there. And then when the school ends, he has to bring me home on a camel. And I played with that for a good week or so. And I finally laughed. And they went up to a teacher. Did I tell you that, Alicia? Because they went up to the teacher and they said, this is the way to sit. And they just said, oh my God, are you guys insane? They have cars. They have a life there. So then I chuckled. I was like, seriously. But I don't remember who I told that to. But it was
that was me.
Was it you? I don't know.
I was like, oh no shit. Like I was
that okay. I couldn't remember who I said.
How would I know this? How would I know?
Yeah, so we had desert and camels, and the Allegheny Mountains were quite different.
I can imagine, quite different.
I think I asked if you had a pet camel.
And I think I said, yeah.
I think you
I rode it to school. I mean, how do you answer that question, right?
I mean, she wrote it. Why not, actually own one? And then we went to Amish country. That was fun.
That was awesome. Yeah, those were great. Yeah. That was real Amish, because we have similar here in Canada, but no, that's real Amish.
Yes.
Yeah.
No electricity, no cars, no nothing.
Yeah, and we'd go and they would do a once a year kind of a bazaar or market, and we'd shop there and have fun, spend all day there. It was good. It was a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. Different, but fun. Teachers kept an eye on us.
So Alicia, you came from the suburbs of Detroit, okay, yes, which were, prosperous, and your dad was a doctor, your mom, worked in the medical field as well. So you came from a fairly middle upper class family, okay? Was everybody from that same socioeconomic background? No.
No.
So you all were a little bit different. You were all sort of thrown together.
We went to school with some very wealthy people.
Very wealthy.
Very, very wealthy. International wealth. And we went to school with some people that if we're looking at class sizes, probably I would say lower to middle, low middle class. And there were definitely kids that were on scholarship. But here's the thing about us, we didn't really know. It was never really thrown up in anyone's face. We were all just trying to survive high school, all being girls, all together, you have 7th grade to seniors, and there's 140 girls in one school. And we are together all the time. We're just trying to get through school. I mean, it was it wasn't, oh, you're wearing that? Oh no, I mean, there were times where it was oh, you're wearing that, but that was to go to the mall or to order Chinese food, which I gotta tell you, I want dumplings so bad from there, the little Chinese restaurant in Tyrone. But I mean, I'm sure people got there on their own little private jets, and I'm sure that there were people who took the Greyhound bus, to when we would go on vacation and stuff. And we never looked at oh, designer this or designer that or whatever. we were, like I said, just trying to survive. And I think it just didn't matter to us.
I think it happens to be a generational thing. I think kids today are more into that. I don't know why the society has made it, but 25 years ago, I mean, I look at some of the high school, Grier school pictures now and I go, God, we were not like that when we were in high school. These kids are like grade 10 going on to like 20-year-olds. Like they're so much beyond their age. We didn't have that concept. She's right. I mean, my parents, and most of the girls that came from Saudi, I would say 99%, we came to Grier because our company that our fathers worked for paid for us to go. My dad didn't dish out any, not a plane ticket and not the cost for the boarding school from his pocket. It all came from the company. So 99% of us that came from Saudi, at least, were sent there on the company money. So it was very different. But again, when we got there, nobody knew that. And we certainly, even when we were there, we certainly didn't know who was super rich and who wasn't. We know that now, right? Thanks to Facebook and life and, you know, us being in our 40s now, life is different. We didn't know that then. No. It absolutely did not matter. And I know, it didn't even matter. Yeah.
But you know, it's interesting because I went to public school and it was so obvious who were the wealthy ones, who were not. And there was that horrible competition while I was growing up. And so it makes me feel good to know that you were all there getting this, you know, very great education. You were all different, and yet you were all basically the same because you were there together. And it's exciting.
I give Grier kudos for that. I mean, we didn't have a uniform. There are boarding schools that have a uniform because they try to keep everybody the same, right? So we didn't have a uniform. But then again, even our clothes, I mean, I would wear my traditional clothes almost every day to class, not caring. And, you know, I thrived on that because it was so new in that city and in that town and to all the people. But no, it was nothing like that. And I think public schools, yeah, you guys have, even though we had a mix, I don't know, Grier kept us in check, right, guys? Wouldn't you say? It was kind of, I don't know, it was just the atmosphere. It was just, nobody really, and we never even left the building to go to classes. So these girls were there in their pajamas in class. We never had to leave the building. So I think it was easy. Grier did that to us. Just go down in your pajamas.
Yeah, except I believe there was a couple teachers who would not let us wear pajamas in their classroom.
Maybe I never came in pajamas to learn that.
Oh, you did? She was always dressed, and I was always jealous because I was like, those look like comfy pajamas.
We actually got a few of the girls the comfy pajamas so they could do the same as us.
But I mean, yeah, it's like I think back to it and it's like, yeah, I mean, we went to, wow, I mean, we've gone to other schools because we're all girls schools. So we went to like boys school, like the Hill School for Boys, like we went to Kiski, Grand Valley something or other in Ohio, like Carson Long, the military school. Like we did actually get out. That was fun.
You know what? Speaking of Kiski, I just have to say, I think they didn't even realize the class differences. Here I was at Kiski one time. I only went to 1 or 2 dances, and I was dancing with this boy, and I found out later from his friends, he's actually one of the princes from Saudi Arabia. And I was like, what? You know, so there was that level of people there. Or something like that. Yeah,
I think that was junior year. Yeah.
And one of the guys was the prince, one of the lineage princes from Saudi Arabia. So there was that level of people there too, but you know, it was just whatever.
Mm-hmm. So going to boarding school didn't inflate your egos and make you feel like you were better than the next person. I know.
Yeah, because I got that problem.
Yeah, I know.
I don't think I ever had that problem.
So what was it like when you completed your education there and now it was time to go home?
You mean go to the real world?
Yeah, exactly. No comment.
Well, no, it was a culture. I came home senior year, so I didn't graduate from Grier. Yeah, so I came home senior year, and that was it was different because I was back living with my parents. And I didn't have somebody up my ass every day being like, so did you do your homework? Did you do your homework? Oh, you have to go here, you have to go there. I was used to my routine, my schedule. I didn't have to, it worked really great for me. I didn't have to answer to anybody except no smoking in your room and, don't get caught sneaking out, or if I finally get permission to go out, like it was fine. And be back at a certain time so then I could look at my map so I could sneak out. I mean, it was like, it was the perfect setup for me, hands down. And so to come home and to be like, so Alicia, like, you have to, I had different responsibilities. Like I can get myself on a plane, a bus, a train, I can get myself anywhere in the United States. And I come home to like, well, where are you going? I can't, I'm going to Philly for the weekend. Like, no, like we need a little bit more detail than that. Where when I was in Pennsylvania, if I wanted to go to West Virginia and I went home with one of our girls, Jessica, I told my parents, I'm going home with Jessica for the weekend. I'm going to West Virginia. Partied with WVU, like, I went home with Jessica, that kind of thing. So to come home and then like homework versus not homework, like Gretchen mentioned, for the most part, our teachers lived on campus. We had dinner with them. Yeah. We could grab them. They were accessible, and we could sit and chat with them. And that was fine. Or like, hey, I don't understand why I got this wrong. And then like possibly get a better grade because you worked through it. Going back to public school senior year, and it was like, well, that's your grade. No, I don't understand that. Like I had forgotten the rules of public school. And we all know Allie here, right? I'm just like, whatever. Like I'm totally like, no, like you have to explain this to me. And my teacher was like, I don't have to explain anything.
Mm-hmm. And that was one of the things about Grier, for sure. We definitely got that extra attention. I mean, I remember my smallest class was 3 people. And it was 3 girls getting French lessons. So, I mean, that was one thing that we were very lucky with. And our teachers were definitely very accessible. Yeah, we were able to work through anything. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would have been shocked.
I just can't imagine, senior year of all years having to come back. Was it because you had learned your lesson?
Oh no.
No. Okay. I didn't think.
Like, this is not life lessons with Alicia. This is talk life with Alicia. No. When we had made the decision with my parents that the school had kind of changed a little bit from like the end of junior year for me. And there were a lot of things going, like my grandmother with Alzheimer's, like there were a lot of things going on at home.
Sure.
And it just became, the environment had changed for me. And so my parents, and I wanted the important things a 17-year-old wants, in May of 94. I want to go to prom because we didn't have prom. So prom was like, I want to go to my prom. I don't want to go to everybody else's prom. So yeah, that's reason to come home, prom. Poms. So I was like, so my social life, but a lot of it too was like, I needed to come home. That because there was with my grandmother and my sister starting high school, it was just time. And like I said, Grier had kind of changed like towards the end there. There was some stuff Huwalda would never know about because she was a rule follower and I was not.
Interesting.
And and I was going to be 18 in November. That's the other thing too is, and I think had my parents, I would have not have dropped out of school. So let's put it like I'm not that bad. I made poor choices and I acted out, but I was never a bad kid. I just did some really like dumb stuff. Because I think the two, Huwalda and Gretchen, can honestly say that I didn't really have a bad bone in my body unless I was pushed.
Well, you would never be a therapist right now if you had any bad bone in your body. I mean, we all make bad choices in our lives, and I'm sure we all have, but as long as you knew which direction to go, which you clearly did, hey, that's what matters, right?
Right. But I never intentionally hurt somebody.
No.
I think hands down that can be said. So that, you know, that part of it. But yeah, coming back home was definitely, it was way, I don't know if it made things better or worse, because I was already independent and then I got more independent because of Grier. Like, remember the snowstorm?
Yes.
Like, we literally had like a blizzard, and it was like 2 days like before Thanksgiving break, or like one of our long breaks, and we're literally stuck.
Yeah.
And I'm calling airports, I'm calling like, great, and people are like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm getting home, and I'll get all of you home too. Like, I don't care. Like, at one point in time, I was like, can we just like charter a plane to get home? And someone's like, if the airport's closed, Alicia, no private plane is gonna. I was like, yeah, but they have different rules. No, that's really like flying objects in the sky during a blizzard. They don't do that. Like, so yeah, so that's why I came home. But you know what? Like, I'm glad I came home because I got to be with my grandmother, who was living with us, and I got my sister through, you know, her freshman year, and, you know, her smoking pot. So, you know.
You did all the things you wanted to do.
I did. You know what? I was a responsible big sister.
Yes, you still are.
I'm still a responsible. I mean, you know, that's the thing. Like, they wanted to try it. They're little kids. They don't know. I mean, they're not little kids. They're in high school. But I mean, it was like, well, where are you getting it from?
You know,
like I know, because I've smoked it, so I know what to look at, like what to look for. I'm gonna get you high, so you know. So and like, you know, and it can't just be like, oh, here's a joint. No, I dissect the thing, and I was like, so this is what weed looks like. This is what this looks. It was very responsible.
wow. You know, it's funny you say that. You guys were at home. So when we were there, we had heard of none of this, right? We had this concept, and we were rule followers. But then I left and I went to boarding school. I went to a private college, Juniata. I was at Juniata for 2 years after I left Grier. That's where I actually probably tried alcohol for the first time. So I was like now 18. And then, no kidding, and then I went to Canada for 2 years. I was on my own with my sister for 2 years here. We transferred, so my parents are still in Saudi. This is now when we started experimenting, or we ever tried the first time. So we did what you go further behind. It took us a little bit of catching up, but it was a whole different world. But then our parents moved to Canada, and it was the same thing that you had. Right now, we've been on our own for like 7 years, and all of a sudden, boom, we're thrown in with families. So there's some disasters that are bound to happen, but you know, so it's so interesting. We were right there, but just way behind you guys.
Gretchen, what was it like when you got back to Ohio? Because you're from a small area.
Actually, I had met my husband, and I was engaged my senior year. I was planning getting married. I graduated in 94, and I got married in 95. And, you know, it was, being at Grier, I was separated from family. And the family I needed wasn't available to me, you know. So Grier, you know, some of my friends there became my family.
Sure.
But once I got home, I was like, hey, you know, let's start my life with, you know, I wanted to have kids. We didn't have kids until like 10 years later. So, but I did different things, different jobs. So I didn't go to college. I didn't go, I was already gone from home. And so going to college for me, I didn't want to leave.
Sure.
Even if it was a local college, I was like, no, I'm done with school. This is, I've had it. So, but I was successful. I did I worked, and then I had my kids and was home with them for about 15, I don't know, 10 years, I think. And then I started working again. So,
But you all seem to have found what you needed. Okay. You found family. Okay. Alicia, you're still going to be the free spirit.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I can say about you is free spirit as you are, that, and even though you don't like rules, you do follow rules when you need to.
Only when I have to, but yeah, I've grown up a little bit. I still, the red lights, I still have to stop at them, And
you tell your daughter when you shouldn't be speeding.
Yeah, we look out for police for each other, we're there. I got my sidekick now. Like, I live with a little me. It's really
Who looks just like you too, by the way.
Oh, she acts just like me. Oh, she's, I got that in spades.
Then you have your son who sort of keeps things a little calmer.
He's the rule follower. I don't know where he got that from, because it's certainly not me. I mean, he's like, so this is really funny. So they know because they've lived with me. So, like, punishing me means nothing. Like, okay, you're going to punish me. Like, oh, you're going to take away my weekend. Oh, okay. Like, I'm still going out, just not during daylight hours. Like, it doesn't matter. My son lied to me, and he got grounded for like a week, and where he couldn't do anything but sit on the stairs. He will not lie to me. Matter of fact, he overshares. And there are no secrets, and there is no anything, because his ass was on the stairs, and he will tell you, like, Max, like, what? Well, why won't you? My dad said something to him, and he goes, "Don't tell your mom." And Max goes, "Oh no, I was grounded for a whole entire week, and I will never do that again. That didn't go so well." So
Wow.
where Bailey's like, "How do I get around this?"
Well, but your kids have some great role models, and we know that. And you're a pretty good one too. So I had asked a question earlier, and that is, is boarding school, something that you'd want for your kids? And Alicia and Gretchen, you said no. So what do you say down there? Would you?
Oh, I would. Absolutely, I would. Now, see, a lot of people don't know this about me, but boarding school was my escape from my family, because I was in a very violent home and a very abuse-filled home. And living in Saudi Arabia as a woman, I had to tolerate that as a girl. I couldn't get away from it. So sending me to boarding school was probably the best decision my dad made for me, for my mental health. And then being in boarding school gave me my confidence. It gave me the belief that I, as a woman, because here I was told, as a woman, and you're a dark-skinned woman, you're not going to get very far in life. So now in boarding school, as a woman, I was now part of all the sports teams. I was doing piano. I was doing everything and anything I wanted to do to build myself up. And, that's what I enjoyed. I was now making friends that are now like sisters, even to this day. So for me, it was my dose of confidence. And because it was such a positive experience for me at Grier, I bawled my eyes the last day of leaving Grier. We did not want to leave. It was the most heartbreaking decision. But then I also knew that my sister was still there, and I was only going to be a junior at college, so I could hop on over whenever I wanted to. So knowing all that, if I could afford to, now, God, it's what, $50,000 to send your kid to Grier?
Yes.
If I could afford to, there are some great private schools here. I would send my kids, at least for the experience for a couple of years. Let them find who they are. Let them develop themselves. What's the worst that can happen, right? And then bring them back home if they want to, or let them thrive. But I would. That's just me, though. It's heartbreaking for me to leave my babies. It would be, I don't know how my mom did it. I have no idea. She let all 4 kids go off to a different country. I mean, I don't know how she did it, but she did it. But, you know, it's going to be good for my kids. I would.
Well, this was quite interesting, Alicia. We will have to do this again. And we're going to have
more secrets are going to come out. Eh?
When's the after conversations of secrets?
Late night.
Yeah, once the radio's off.
I'm an open book. Bring it.
Well, we'll have to make sure that your mother at least listens to this version of your podcast.
I don't care. She can listen to all
I
of
know.
it.
She already knows.
Alicia probably told all these versions to her face, probably, right?
Yeah, some things don't change. I just don't. I'm not good at I tell on. So Max is like that. I tell on myself. You know. Oh yeah, I got caught sneaking out, and there was no getting around it. I snuck out. So my dad's like, and I'm like, and I got to tell you, now I know when the security guard walks by the smoker, which is in the basement. So now all I have to do is make.
For some reason, we lost you, Alicia. Your internet is freezing you, and you don't look very pretty right now. So. But
Screenshot, share.
We love her. We love her. What we're going to do is we're going to close out this show. I want to thank you, ladies, for joining Alicia tonight. It was a lot of fun. I think I think your conversations are going to help others who listen to the podcast, know what boarding school is really like, because I had a totally different view of it. And I'm so glad that you're all happy and that you've all remained friends. So take care, and we'll all be in touch again.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Alicia, for having us on. And Karen.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.